You know, the NFL offseason isn't just a break. It's a giant chess match played across the entire league, where one team's move can literally change the whole board. And right now, the Indianapolis Colts are in the middle of a really complex game, fighting a war on two separate fronts. We're going to break down how a massive, blockbuster trade they have absolutely zero chance of making might just be the smartest move on their board, and, at the same time, how they're being forced to scramble and react to a hole that just blew wide open on their own roster. This is a really fascinating peek behind the curtain into the mind of an NFL front office.
So let's start with a question that, honestly, sounds like a riddle. In this high-stakes world of building a championship team, how can being completely locked out of a deal for a superstar player actually become your biggest advantage? I know it sounds totally backward, right? But as we're about to see with the Colts, sometimes the smartest moves are the ones you're forced not to make.
All right, so our story really kicks off with a piece of news that sent a ripple effect through pretty much every contender's front office. It all started with what looked like a boring little contract tweak, but it exploded into a rumor that could potentially shift the entire balance of power, especially in the AFC.
And at the dead center of this whole thing is one of the most feared defensive players in the entire league, the Cleveland Browns' own Myles Garrett, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. We're not just talking about a good player here. This guy is an absolute game wrecker. He is nightmare fuel for quarterbacks. He's the kind of talent you literally build an entire defense around. So you can imagine when even a whisper gets out that he might be available, GMs everywhere drop what they're doing and pick up the phone.
And this right here, this is what lit the fuse. A tweet from ESPN's Field Yates that, on the surface, looks incredibly boring. Modified language in a contract. It sounds like legal paperwork, right? But for anyone who really follows the league, for any front office analyst, you know the real story is always buried in that fine print. This wasn't just fluff, it was a giant signal flare.
So what did this modification really do? Well, think of it like this. The Browns basically just gave a potential buyer a massive extension on a huge credit card payment. See, originally, if a team traded for Garrett, they would have had to pay out his massive option bonuses almost right away. But this tiny little change, it pushed that payment deadline months down the line. It gave a new team all summer to get their books in order, to figure out the salary cap gymnastics, and it made pulling off a trade infinitely more possible.
Okay, so why does one little change on a calendar matter so much? Because in the NFL, you have to remember, the salary cap isn't just a suggestion, it's everything. You don't just make a move like this in a vacuum. You don't make your superstar's contract easier for another team to take on unless you're at least thinking about moving him. It completely changes the financial reality of making a deal.
Bottom line, by pushing that bonus deadline back, the Browns essentially just lowered the price of admission for getting into the Myles Garrett business. It was like putting up a giant for sale sign and sending an open invitation to the rest of the league, signaling that they were ready to listen to offers on a guy who, just the day before, seemed completely untouchable. The sweepstakes were officially open for business.
Okay, so while the rest of the league's heavy hitters are practically drooling at the thought of Myles Garrett in their uniform, the folks in the Indianapolis front office, they saw something totally different. They weren't just looking at the prize itself. They were looking at the massive distraction the prize was creating. And in that distraction, they saw a golden opportunity.
Look, it is maybe the worst-kept secret in the entire league that the Colts are desperate for an elite pass rusher. They've got a really solid roster, but they're missing that one guy, that one explosive player on the D-line who can consistently get to the quarterback and just slam the door shut on games. A player like Myles Garrett is, on paper, the absolute perfect final piece to their puzzle. But there's one giant, unavoidable problem.
The price to even get in on the Myles Garrett auction starts with a king's ransom in draft picks. We're talking multiple first-rounders minimum. The Colts, though, they've already spent that cash. They don't have a first-round pick this year or next. They simply do not have the ammunition to even get the Browns to pick up the phone. They are not players in this game.
And this is where the beautiful irony of the whole situation comes in. Being completely 100% shut out of the biggest trade negotiation of the offseason is a massive win for the Colts. It's the classic blessing in disguise. It lets them just step aside from a bidding war they were never going to win and instead focus on a much, much smarter path forward.
So here's how the strategy unfolds, and it's actually pretty brilliant. Step 1, the Garrett news acts like a giant smokescreen. It captures the full attention of every other team out there that needs a pass rusher. Step 2, all those rival teams are now tying up their GMs, their salary cap guys, their top scouts, spending all their time on phone calls and spreadsheets trying to put together a monster offer for Garrett.
And that creates step 3, the most important part. A quiet, less crowded marketplace opens up just for the Colts. So with all their competition distracted by the shiniest toy in the window, the Colts can now pivot and go hard after that next tier of really effective pass rushers. Guys like Jonathan Greenard, who's a beast on the rise, or Josh Sweat, a proven veteran who knows how to get to the QB. Suddenly, these guys become prime targets that you can get without having to mortgage your entire future.
And the difference in cost here is it's staggering. Instead of gutting your next 2 or 3 drafts for one guy, the Colts could potentially land a player like Greenard or Sweat who can get you double-digit sacks for a package that's probably built around a second or a third-round pick. That's how you address a critical need while still keeping the assets you need to build out the rest of the roster. It's just smart business.
So this is the first front in the Colts' offseason war. It's a proactive, offensive move. They get to use the market's obsession with Garrett as cover to swoop in, make a really decisive and focused offer, and lock down a major upgrade for their defense before their rivals even realize what's happened.
But, the NFL chessboard is always in motion. Just as the Colts were getting their pieces in place for this offensive strike on the trade market, an unexpected move forced them to play defense, opening up a whole second front in their strategic battle.
See, this is the other side of being a GM that we don't always talk about. It's not just about planning your next big move. It's about how you react when you get hit with something you didn't see coming. And just as the Colts were scheming to make their defense stronger, a key role player on their offense just up and walked out the door.
And that player is backup running back Tyler Goodson, who just signed a deal with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I know, losing a backup running back doesn't exactly make national headlines. But for a team that has serious playoff hopes, losing a key, versatile depth piece like him creates a pretty significant and immediate problem that you absolutely cannot ignore.
So why is this such a big deal? I mean, he's a backup, right? Well, in today's NFL, the whole idea of a single workhorse running back who never comes off the field is pretty much over. What you need now is depth, you need versatility, and you need guys with specialized skills in your backfield. And believe me, Tyler Goodson was way more than just a simple backup.
This guy was a total Swiss Army knife for the Colts. He was their trusted third down back, a reliable pass catcher out of the backfield who could create mismatches against linebackers. His speed was the perfect change of pace to the raw power of their star running back, Jonathan Taylor. And on top of all of that, he was a core, vital contributor on multiple special teams units.
And he wasn't just versatile. The guy was efficient. You see that number, 4.9 yards per carry? That tells you that when his number was called, he made it count. He was a productive, reliable player who consistently moved the sticks and gave the team a spark whenever they needed it.
I mean, just look at how his contributions were spread out. He was touching the ball as a runner, as a receiver, as a return man, and he was a constant presence on those crucial coverage units. When you lose a player like that, you don't just have one roster spot to fill. You've got like 3 or 4 different jobs that are now suddenly vacant.
And the immediate result is a dangerously thin depth chart at one of the most brutal, physically punishing positions in the game. Jonathan Taylor is an absolute superstar, no question. But one rolled ankle, one unlucky hit to him could now threaten to derail the entire offense. And that's a gamble that no serious contender wants to take.
Let's take a quick look at that running back room. I mean, behind Taylor, you've got DJ Giddens, a recent draft pick, and Ulysses Bentley IV, who has exactly 1 career carry to his name. That is a terrifying lack of proven experience and production for a team that really leans on its running game to win.
So, the battle lines are drawn. On one side, you've got this proactive opportunity to exploit the market and grab a pass rusher. And on the other, you have this reactive necessity, this sudden need to plug a hole in your own backfield. This is the moment where the front office has to come up with a single cohesive plan to win on both fronts.
And this, right here, is the real test of an NFL front office. It's not just about making that one big splashy move that everyone on TV is talking about. It's about the sum total of all your decisions. They have to be aggressive and on the attack on one front while being quick and defensive on the other. And they have to do it all at the same time.
So, what's the game plan look like? Well, for the edge rusher, it's all about pulling off that savvy, under-the-radar trade while everybody else is looking the other way. And for the running back, well, the answer there is probably much closer to home, with a familiar face who can step right in and fill that void without missing a beat.
Yeah, the most logical, the most efficient, and probably the most cost-effective solution to their running back problem is bringing back veteran Amir Abdullah. He was on the team just last season, so there's literally zero learning curve. He knows the playbook, he knows the coaches, he knows the locker room, and he has the exact skill set that they just lost in Goodson.
And his numbers from last season just prove that he is the perfect plug-and-play replacement. He was a contributor as both a runner and a receiver, and, this is crucial, he had already taken over from Goodson as the team's main kickoff returner halfway through the season. He is the very definition of a known, reliable quantity.
And look, Abdul wasn't just filling in on special teams. He was a legitimate weapon back there, racking up over 560 return yards. That kind of consistent field position advantage is incredibly valuable, and he gives them a seamless solution to that problem, probably at a very team-friendly price.
So when we zoom out, when we look at this whole situation from 30,000 feet, what does it all tell us? It really shows that the NFL offseason is so much more than just a race to acquire talent. It's a really complex, multi-layered chess match where every single move, and sometimes every non-move, matters.
The Colts offseason right now is the perfect snapshot of this delicate balancing act. A great front office has to have one eye on the horizon, always looking for those market opportunities to attack, like with the pass rusher situation. But they also have to be ready at a moment's notice to pivot and calmly solve the problems that pop up unexpectedly in their own building.
At the end of the day, winning the offseason isn't always about making the one move that gets all the headlines. More often than not, it's about the cumulative effect of a dozen smaller, smarter, interconnected decisions that make your roster deeper, more versatile, and just more resilient from the top all the way down to the bottom.
And that really leaves us with one final thought, to bring it back to our chess analogy. What's the real path to a championship? Is it going all in, pushing all your chips to the center of the table to get that one dominant superstar, the powerful queen who can change a game all by herself? Or is it the masterful strategy of assembling a deep, versatile roster of really well-played strategic pawns? I'd love to know what you think, so drop a comment below. We actually read all of them. And hey, if you enjoyed this kind of deep dive analysis, do us a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe to NFL Nexus for more. We'll see you next time. Oh, and a quick reminder, you can help support the channel by checking out our coloring books. They're perfect for fans of all ages. The link is in the description, or you can just use the QR code on your screen now. Thanks again for watching.